some days I wake up and I just feel amazed to be in a body and to be back in this world and to be here. And what is it to be alive? What is this world? What is it to live a good life and a satisfying life? And what happens when this body dies? Those questions are really pertinent.
I have no belief in any supernatural entities or any divine creation or origin of our life or humanity or anything like that.
It was actually quite funny because the other day I saw one of those preachers on Cuba Street, and he just randomly came up to me and asked me if I was happy with my life. And I think he was quite taken aback when I said yes, because I don't know, he obviously thought I wasn't religious, could smell the sin off me or something, I don't know.
My name is Paul Morris, and I teach at Victoria University in the Religious Studies program. The figures for the recent census we had show yet again a significant increase in those who I call nones, and the nones are those who describe their own religious orientation as having no religion. The figure now is well over a third, and it parallels a decrease in the number of people who identify with the Christian traditions. We've engaged in a very strange experiment, which is just to see what happens if we don't expose our children to religion. And there are findings to this experiment, which is that they don't become religious. And so part of this is its own exponential growth. So in that sense, I think that's part of it. But I don't think it's a decline in religion. I think it's a decline in religious institutions. We can't make assumptions that people who declare no religion are atheistic or even agnostic.
I'm Ashley, I live in Wellington. I have just finished my degree and looking for a job, so I'm kind of in that awkward in-between phase. So I grew up in this little town called Wellsford. It's kind of a drive-through town where people just go through and make pit stops and then go to bigger places like Whangarei and stuff like that. And they're mostly really religious there, and so when I moved there I was quite unnerved, I think. Primary school was okay, but then high school it was kind of like, if you weren't religious, then you're not worth our time. And so I sort of took up religion, makes it sound like a hobby, but it kind of was at first. It was kind of like, oh, I'll just try out this whole church thing, maybe read bits and pieces from the Bible. So eventually I started, being one of those people, started preaching to other people. God, it was just a really bad period of my life. But eventually, I remember this one time in youth group where they were talking about divorce, and they said that divorce is only acceptable when there's abuse and things like that. And so I brought up the question, what if you're not happy? Is that acceptable? And they just looked at me and just didn't even answer. They just looked at me as if I was some sort of person from another planet. That was kind of the turning point, I think. I was just no one is actually giving me any sort of satisfactory answers. No one's actually answering my questions. So it just seems like they don't have the answers. Maybe this whole religion thing is just stupid, really. It was just a farce. It was just, yeah.
My name's Samora O'Neill. I've studied psychology, criminology, and I'm currently studying philosophy at Victoria University in Wellington. In this context, I would say I'm an atheist, but I don't like to identify as an atheist, because an atheist, the term atheist describes something you don't believe in, and I don't define myself by what I don't believe in. I suppose I define myself by the things I do believe in, which has nothing to do with religion, a standard secular worldview. I believe that life was a product of the right circumstances and conditions, as is bound to occur given the magnitude and size of the universe, and we are here for a finite period of time, and when we die, we die. That's a conclusion of our consciousness. And I suppose that's the extent of my belief in this regard. But half my family is Argentine. They live in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, which is certainly a much more religious country than New Zealand is. So they would all identify as Christian. My grandfather runs Alpha courses, which are courses for those who are interested in following the teachings of Jesus Christ. And so there is a huge difference there. Obviously, when I go over there, I'm not religious, and it is very different to observe the religious doings and how they entwine with daily life. You know, it's a really, it's a very common and tiring claim that the religion fills this hole in your heart. It's a hugely judgmental claim. I certainly have nothing against anyone who is religious, and I have no trouble believing that it may provide some sense of meaning and purpose in their lives, whether or not that's illusory. But in my case, by having no belief in some kind of divine creator, it makes me only love life all the more. I realize that, or at least I believe that at the end of my life, that's it. You know, that's the conclusion of my existence. So this is all I have, and so I'm motivated to make the most of the time I do have here. And it's no less beautiful, no less enjoyable, and no less meaningful to me that it wasn't created by some divine hand.
Hi there, my name's Ross Dennis McLeish, and I'm currently living in Wellington. Yeah, in my late teen years I became very fascinated by Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist meditation, and so I guess that was probably the closest I got to sort of maybe formally stepping into a religion, but I've never seen the need or felt the conviction to sort of declare myself any one particular religion. Yeah, I guess I would say I have spiritual beliefs, or beliefs that perhaps aren't purely materialistic. Thinking back to what I was taught in my schooling and even at the university, there's not much talk about values or ethics or what is it to be alive? What is it to be here in this body? And those questions can't really be addressed through science. Science can describe things and explain things, but it doesn't ask why, it doesn't ask how. How did this come to be? And the realm of meaning and the realm of what is right and what is wrong, that's something separate from pure science. I feel like life and the universe and these questions are so broad that the best way to engage with them is to look at a lot of different perspectives. And because I have considered many different perspectives, I don't feel the confidence to lock myself into one way of viewing things. Agnostic or not associated with a religion, there are some things you miss out on, like the religious community, but I'm also wide open to many influences, asking lots of questions, and so I feel like as a non-believer, I'm just as open to being informed and transformed by all these different ways of living, ways of viewing the world.